We're the Vinyl Verdict. I'm Jacob.
I'm Michael.
And today we're going to talk about the Pete Ham Gwent Gardens release that recently came out. Kind of a first reaction, maybe a second reaction, because we haven't had that much time to absorb it. I think it was kind of launched spontaneously and put on streaming, and there hasn't been a deep analysis. Everyone's grateful to have it, but we had some thoughts, and we're very grateful to have it. So I wanted to at least include that somewhere in our channel and in our content. The majority of them are 69 to 70, that time period. They weren't in the studio. They didn't have quite as much studio time booked, and they weren't touring maybe quite as much as they would be in later years. My major takeaway before we even get into some of the songs, they're all finished for the most part, or they're 90% of the way done. I'm amazed that even after all of these demo discs we've gotten, I thought these might be a little more bottom of the barrel. And for the most part, these are pretty complete. They were abandoned at least after finishing the songwriting. They weren't like parts and pieces like other artists might do. What we don't know is, were these recorded all at one night and he, did multiple guitar parts and wrote all the lyrics and sang it, or would he revisit these and kind of in parallel work on multiple songs and go back and record the vocals a day later? And then it's also, this is a unique release because unlike some of the other Pete Ham demo discs, there are no overdubs. Everything you hear on here is Pete Ham, or Pete Ham and Ron Griffiths in the case of the Happy song. No kind of 21st century additions to this.
And that makes it great to hear also with respect and awe for the songwriting genius that was Pete Ham, in addition to performing and recording, just in songwriting. To hear these and know that they were complete, as you say, relatively speaking, pretty complete, and not impressionistic demos with bits and pieces that were strung together later and became a song, and those can be equally great songs, as we know from a lot of John Lennon's work and the way that the Beatles songs culminated. But Pete Ham was working on a level which all these years later I'm still learning about, and this is part of the learning and education, and it was remarkable to hear this. A true melody man starts, and even when you think you get familiar with what this particular melody was, it takes a left turn and goes somewhere else in the middle, equally melodic, always. Just a wonder to hear for a real fan, for a true fan.
Prolific in the amount of songwriting.
Yes.
This 68 to 71 period, someone can do the math and add it up. He must have something like, this has easily got to be over 100 songs for him alone at this point. It's kind of amazing. Maybe some of these were written earlier and just recorded during this time. Also interesting how many of these songs seem to be written on piano primarily, which I would say was a shift. I think this period, 69-70, he's almost writing predominantly on piano, whereas, 73, 74, 75 even, beginning, his more acoustic guitar was kind of his go-to instrument. So 4 of these are Badfinger songs, or they would become Badfinger songs, and these are kind of the demo versions. And the rest of them are completely new demos that we've never heard, that other than I Can Be, which there was a snippet of on a previous bootleg, and Tulip, which was also from Ivy's recorded that. It's all new stuff. I Miss You, we have the demo to this, which is interesting how it doesn't even necessarily stand out to me that much on the demo disc relative to some of the other ones, that this was going to be the one they picked to include on a Badfinger album.
There was a wealth of material that he had, but he had bandmates too who were writing equally all kinds of songs, and there was the Badfinger sound, and I guess it was, since we read about that it was a democracy and a democratic system they used, and I guess everybody had a vote on what songs went on when they went on.
And a lot of these to me sound like, okay, these could have been on a follow-up to Maybe Tomorrow, but I can't picture them being on any Badfinger album. Maybe he wrote a lot of these, and by 70, 71, they weren't really the sound the band wanted.
I guess not.
The only one on here that was written later, really, was, I guess Take It All is August 71. Love Will Be is 1972, which is kind of the peak songwriting era for Pete Ham, and that's probably why we're able to get that one a week earlier before the release. I think that's why it was promotional. It's kind of that 72 period. Scarlet Willow, I hear a lot of John Forgot to Sing melody in there. It's interesting, on the library, it says Scarlet Willow is from 1972, but it has that same clavichord sounding piano and everything as the second track, Let the Sun Shine Through, which was 1970. I have to think those were recorded around the same time, if not the same week. So in my mind, these are all 69-70 except for Love Will Be and Take It All, probably. But the chord progression's got a little bit of that ringside, like the going to minor to the major chord thing, which is definitely, even going back here, a huge part of his songwriting. And The Day Begins, which is great emotional bluesy stuff. To me, I hear some of the harsher like blues vocals he was doing in '69, which he used in Dawn and like Watford John a little bit in the choruses. He'd strike that bluesier kind of rougher, but not a higher register necessarily voice. I think he's using that here. I'm Only Human, I thought, has the best power pop potential of everything on here. That's the one even though it was pretty underdeveloped here, I could see that one being made into a bigger pop song and adding, and there are harmonies in it, and really, having Tom Evans do that and flesh it out a little bit more. Happy Song. So Happy Song was held back from the Keyhole Street release. I'm not sure why, because this goes back to '66. Got a very psychedelic mid-'60s sound. Pete's Boogie is like the 32nd. We had Pete's Walk. We had Pete's, I don't even know how many of them we've had those types of things. I'm glad they're not holding anything back at this point. There's no reason to save anything for future releases. Just give us the music. I mean, it's been 50-something years, so I'm glad that we have it. And, it's streaming. It's not a CD. There's no reason. Everything can fit here. It's a little bit Piano Red-like. You could tell that he had that influence even early on for the, what's that called, ragtimey. Little Mary and some of these other ones, to me, these are like not my favorite part of Pete Ham's songwriting, and this is earlier, this is '68. These are like, he has this section, especially on here, of these bleak organ songs that I think he had, good taste in not developing, right? And there's nothing wrong with, this is the way you become a better songwriter, but they're, and then he plays some drums at certain moments that are a little offbeat. He has the pop acumen of where the chorus and the climax needs to be, but it's just not quite there. And again, this is one of over 100 demos, so this is no critique, but I think it's just interesting to see that other side of some of his songwriting.
Songwriting is the word, and he was doing it always, and he was doing it for an unbelievable band and providing a big part of the sound and literally writing the hits that made the nationwide and became, associated with them, although there's unbelievable great music from the others as well. He just kept going and kept going and kept going, and so we're, privileged to hear it now. Pete had his public face and his songwriting devotion, and they merge sometimes, and sometimes we never would have known about this, never. So this is a wonderful thing to hear.
Blodwyn, I thought this was interesting. This is the similar feel to the final record, but what I was going to call it there is I love the volume pedal solo. I can't think of another time that Pete Ham uses a volume pedal. It's an interesting solo here that gives it an effect. I think this is maybe before he discovered slide to the degree that he would play it, and it's giving it a similar effect of isolating certain notes a little bit more. Stick a Line In, recorded at the same time of If It's Love. I don't know why he's referencing Lennon here. I don't understand it. I'd be really curious to hear someone's explanation for what he means by this in 1970. This is before, well, I guess Pete Ham never worked with Lennon directly. So it's an interesting, like Tom and Joey are the ones that went and played on Imagine. So it's kind of interesting. I've never heard anything about Pete Ham's relationship with John Lennon other than they both dated May Pang, I guess, which is a real stretch. Would love to hear what he's maybe referencing here, if they did have some run-in or Something on My Mind, '68. I think we both like this one a lot. This to me is the other highlight. Something on My Mind has like a Walking in the Rain type melody, and it's got like that nice, the signature Pete Ham restrained Welsh emotion of being really emotional, but not show not tell kind of emotion, which is done really well here.
Very true.
I Can Be, we talked about. Walk Out in the Rain. Oh, we didn't say this. How about the fact that, so this is the other demo for a Badfinger song, and one of the most beautiful Badfinger songs. This was written on piano. That was a major shocker to me, right? I mean, that's kind of revelatory that this song is pretty predominantly guitar driven. So his demo was on piano, like the other songs from this period, and there's no harmonies on here either. So unknown whether that was something he decided, because he's double tracked on the records.
I believe so, yeah.
So unknown if he decided to do that, kind of spontaneously in the studio, or there's no harmonies on this demo, so it's interesting. So anyway, 18 tracks, kind of amazing. Never would have forecasted this in 2023 that there would be a new Pete Ham demo disc release. I mean, how much more is there? I'd be curious. I'm sure there's more Badfinger stuff. Love to hear a Tom Evans demo disc. I'm sure there's more of that out there. It's almost like 25 years since his first demo disc came out. It's crazy. So yeah, really grateful to have it, and very interested to see what the community thinks. And it's been a little bit quiet about this release, so we're hoping to get a little more traction around it.